You're in a situation where maybe you have a property you're thinking about selling, maybe you have your eye on some kind of investment property you're thinking of buying, or some combination where there might be multiple properties involved, maybe it's a single property, and where you're stuck is you can't figure out, should you sell it? Should you buy this other thing? It's this whole buying selling conundrum. What should you do? So I want to give you a few things to consider because the answer to that question is going to be specific to every individual and every individual situation. What my recommendation for you might be different than what it would be for this person. It all depends. The answer depends on different things. So I'm going to tell you what those different things are to kind of give you a little bit of just a checklist of things that you can maybe go through if you're trying to answer this question for yourself. So what are those things? The absolute very first place that I recommend everybody to start is before anything else, before wondering about anything else, just run the numbers. On every possible scenario that you're considering, whether it's selling, buying, cash out refinancing, whatever it is, paying off another loan with the equity, whatever the combinations are, write out, if you want to do it on a spreadsheet or whatever, write out every single possible scenario that you're considering. Then run every possible scenario, run those numbers. What do I mean by run the numbers? Well, there's a couple different things, but the numbers themselves, for instance, on a basic rental property, I'm going to link below to a whiteboard video that I created years ago that gives you the basics on how to run the numbers on a rental property, including the cap rate and the cash on cash return. That's like the most basic level of numbers you could run. So check out that video. That'll help you do that one. Then there's also just this idea of just running the numbers. So I may have a video just on that I'll also include below. And then one more video about the numbers, a little bit unrelated, but also kind of related. It's called Know Where Your Profit's going to Come From. On any investment property that you're considering, you'd be amazed how many people don't actually know what they're doing and they don't actually know how they plan to profit from that property. So I'm going to throw that third video in there just to help kind of broaden the context of things to consider when we're talking about the numbers. So run the actual numbers. What are they? What is the anticipated return, or what is the return you're already getting? What is the point in running the numbers? That's the second video. And then understanding where your profits going to come from, because sometimes it's not always the cap rate or the cash on cash return. The reason you care about where the profit's going to come from ties back into running the numbers is you want to understand with each scenario what the possibility for profiting is, because I would assume you probably want to keep the most profitable properties, or you don't want to exchange a really profitable one for a not so profitable one, depending on the next things. You see me looking down here. I may have a whiteboard ready. I'm a whiteboard nerd, if you don't know this about me already. So my whiteboard is ready. But barring some other considerations, just from a numbers perspective, running the numbers on all of those scenarios may give you your answer all by itself, or it may help you eliminate. Let's say you have 5 different options and you see the numbers on 2 of them and you're like, well, that would be terrible. Nope, nix those. And then now you're down to 3 from 5. So you're kind of whittling down to figure out what your options are. The nice thing that I like about running the numbers is it's taking the abstract out of the equation, because oftentimes when we're considering different options, we're kind of thinking of them top level and we don't know exactly what we're working with. So when you're staring the numbers in the face, you're not working in the abstract. These are factual numbers. End of story. That's going to help you eliminate different options. Cool. That's the main one. Step 1, run the numbers, and check out the videos below in support of that. Cool. Now, let's say that you do go from 5 options down to 3. Well, now how are you going to decide between those 3 options if all the numbers are fairly comparable? So here's where my whiteboard comes in handy. I wrote 3 things on here for you to consider, because usually there's no wrong answer to this. And like I said, I can't answer for on a general sense, because everyone's situations are different. So what are those different scenarios that people need to consider for themselves? So first thing, we have the numbers here. After that, so you've run the numbers on all the scenarios. Here are the things that I want you to think about. Number one, your diversification strategy. If you don't already have a diversification strategy, think about it. Because, you know, if you have a couple of single family houses and an apartment complex, and there are a couple different neighborhoods, and, you know, you're spread out, you're helping diversify. So if something goes wrong, not all of your properties or not all of your eggs in the basket are going to go down with it. So what is your diversification strategy? Create one if you need to, or at least at a minimum, put some thought into it, because the idea of diversifying may help you get closer to deciding on your buying or selling scenario, whatever you're trying to figure out. After that, what are your goals? And this may be part of figuring out your diversification strategy, is ultimately sit back and think, what am I trying to accomplish with my real estate investing? What is it that I want down the road? And what is it that I want from a lifestyle perspective? Like, if I want to be a hands-off landlord, I probably don't want to invest in the cheapest property in the worst neighborhood and me landlord it, because I'm going to be busy like crazy. So when you are looking at your different scenarios, think about your goals. What are you trying to accomplish? What things are you hoping to avoid? And that may help you narrow it down, because you may look at one of the scenarios and you're like, wait a minute, why would I do that? Because if I do that, that doesn't hit my goals at all. So work closer towards your goals, not further away from them. And then lastly, my favorite, whatever's going to help you sleep better at night. I always say there's no investment, no matter how high the return, that is worth you losing sleep at night. So maybe you have gotten it down to 3 scenarios. Now you've gotten it down to 2 because you've looked at diversification and goals. And now you're just kind of stuck. Let's say it's a tie. Well, if one of those options is just going to make you a little more nerve-wracked, or it just doesn't quite feel as good, go with the option that makes you feel the best. I don't want you losing sleep over any investment, no matter how high the returns. So I realize I did not solve your buying or selling conundrum scenario, but I'm hoping that giving you some ideas of ways to think about it will help you narrow it down. So again, numbers, diversification strategy, what are your goals, and ultimately what's going to help you sleep better. Chances are you're going to run the numbers and probably get your answers there. But again, assuming you don't get your answer, go down this checklist, see if that helps. Let me know in the comments if it helped, or if you can't quite seem to figure it out on your own, put your scenario down in the comments and let me and other people help you. Maybe one of us will say an idea that you hadn't thought about before, or a consideration you hadn't thought about before. So there you have it. Check out those extra videos I linked to, run through the little checklist, and see if that gets you closer to your answer.